Today I'm going to share with you guys the best graphics settings for a 3080 graphics card inside of Black Ops Cold War to get the highest, most consistent frames per second while still getting stunning visuals. No, we're not using ray tracing. Let's get it. So the graphical settings, obviously you're going to come down here to settings, you're going to go to the graphics tab over here. Full screen, of course. Monitor, select your primary gaming monitor. Refresh rate, set to the native refresh rate of your monitor, and make sure that you actually have selected in Windows 10 display settings your actual maximum refresh rate. By default, it's at 60. So if you have 144 or 260 hertz monitor, make sure you set that. So gameplay VSync and menu VSync, leave these off. We're going to actually set a manual frame rate. We're going to actually set a manual frame rate cap in the settings here. Because for some reason in Warzone and also in Cold War, the VSync or G-Sync for compatible monitors does not work very well. So just leave that disabled. NVIDIA Reflex low latency, I have tested this out quite thoroughly. You want to leave this enabled in boosted mode. Render resolution, you want this at the native resolution of your monitor, which for me is a 1440. Aspect ratio, leave her on automatic, please. Field of view, this is up to you, but for the performance of the game, you want to stick between 90 and 110. Me personally, I like 100. I've noticed when I go to 110, I mean, I like the way it looks, but I lose about 4 to 5 frames per second, and I don't really feel like the extra peripherals is worth it to me. Field of views, both of these, leave these as affected. And then frame rate, you're going to set a custom and set it as the native refresh rate of your monitor and hit apply. Now, I am going to have a little clip here in this video with the camera over my shoulder when I'm not using my screen recording software, showing you my frame rate at like 230 if I'm uncapped with these settings. But then I also explain why you actually want to cap it to your monitor's refresh rate. Menu custom frame rate 60, minimized 30. Texture quality, high. Yes, you can run Ultra if you have a 3080 and certainly a 3090. High isn't that big of a visual difference between high and Ultra. If you stare at like a wall or some kind of statue between high and Ultra, it doesn't make that big of a difference, but when everything in the game world is rendered at Ultra, it will give you a frames per second decrease, and we don't want that. So high. Model texture, max her out at high. Special effects, high. Screen space reflection, low. Now you can see what this does here, but we're not turning it completely off. We're leaving it at low. Object view distance, medium. Water tessellation, enabled. Volumetric lighting, medium. Shadow quality, medium. Dynamic shadows, yes. Special effects, disabled. Weapon shadow, disabled. Ray tracing, disabled. But I will say this right here. If you're playing competitive multiplayer or you're playing zombies, disable it. If you're going to play the campaign, I would turn ray tracing on its prettiest settings. Yes, your frame rate's probably going to go down to about 60 frames per second. That's with DLSS engaged. You might be up a little bit higher, actually, with DLSS on. You might be up there in the 80 range. And that's fine, though. You're not playing competitively or anything like that. And for just going through the story, the campaign, you know, you might as well take advantage of that ray tracing to see how beautiful the game world can be. But again, when you switch to zombies or multiplayer, disable all this. It causes about a 30 to 40 frames per second decrease. And by default, when you get the game and you have a high-end graphics card, not even a super high-end, like when I was on my 2060 Super even, these were all enabled by default. So by turning these off, you're going to make a tremendous difference to your frames per second. NVIDIA DLSS performance over here. Yes, I know it says quality recommended for 2K or 1440. Trust me, performance strikes a fine balance between graphical fidelity, you know, pure beautiful graphics, and also high frame rate. Now, the original DLSS was absolute garbage, DLSS 1.0. However, 2.0 and all of its future sequential patches have made it actually really good to where the image isn't blown out or blurry. It looks like the native image. However, the image in the background's like a 1080p image stretched out to like 1440 or 4K, and it looks just as good as the native resolution while giving you much less taxation on your resources. Anti-aliasing will be disabled if you have DLSS on. Ambient occlusion, medium. Motion blur, disable it. Even if it didn't mess up your frame rate, I think motion blur looks trash. Motion blur quality doesn't matter because it's disabled anyway. Subsurface scattering, disabled. Order and pennant transparency, low. and then leave all of these default except for display adapter. It says auto select here. Just select your GPU. It probably doesn't do anything because it's the only option there, but it makes me feel, it gives me a tickle in the nether regions. It kind of gives me a little pat on the shoulder that I know my 3080's doing its job. So I'm going to screen record real quick and show you guys these settings doing the Lord's work, basically. Alrighty guys, so with these settings, if my frame rate is uncapped, as you can see, I'm at about 230, 240. However, you actually want to cap your frame rate. Now, if you have a G-Sync or V-Sync monitor, mine is a V-Sync. So if you have a G-Sync or V-Sync monitor, it will automatically cap to the refresh rate of your monitor. However, I still recommend coming into your settings over here, graphics tab, of course, and capping your frame rate. Custom, and then type in the frame rate of your monitor and hit apply. And that way, for one, it's more consistent. Two, there's no reason for you to be getting 230 frames per second, considering your monitor is only going to refresh the image 144 times a second, and that's putting excess load on programs running in the background. For example, if you are using OBS or Streamlabs OBS or XSplit Broadcaster, something to record your screen or to encode a stream, so you're streaming or you're screen recording for some YouTube content, it's actually going to drop the frame rate even worse when you launch the program, which I'll show you right now. Now, I have it pretty well optimized with my settings in Streamlabs as well as in Black Ops here, but when you launch it, you're still going to see a tremendous performance hit because obviously it's encoding my webcam with the software that's blurring the background on that. Not to mention, you're just running encoding software, which is very, very resource intensive. So as you can see, I'm screen recording now, and I'm not losing hardly any frames per second. I'm still in the 138 to 144 range, so a very good tight split. You're dead as fuck. I'm playing some recruit bots right now. So obviously I'm going to be absolutely mollywopping all these fuckers. Which is, you know, no different than me playing online. Just kidding. There's some absolute sweat lords that I get match made with. Alrighty guys, so I'm screen recording now, and as you can see, my frame rate is in the upper left-hand corner. I'm up there in the 140 region. Occasionally it'll drop down to the 130s, and that's really not bad considering I am screen recording at 1080p, 60 frames per second with Lascos, how are you shooting at, big dog? Lascos filtering, which is the sharpest filtering available inside of Streamlabs OBS.
Deleted him.
So overall, I've got to say I have the settings pretty well optimized between the game and then also Streamlabs OBS.
That's a kill.
Jesus.
Wasted 15.
These are recruit bots, by the way, in case you guys are wondering why I'm absolutely obliterating these fools. I mean, really, this is no different than my performance in multiplayer, but still. Just kidding. I get match made with some absolute sweat lords with G Fuel dripping off the mustache. Mouse DPI at a fucking 3000. Headphones cranked to 11. The guys that know every pixel in the map, so they're like, oh, that bush looks out of place.
Shut.
But yeah, overall, very satisfied with the, overall though, I'm very satisfied with the performance of this, the settings, not only in Black Ops, because as you can see, it's very graphically still beautiful. Who's shooting? But also, high frame rate, even while screen recording. Who are you shooting at, big dog? Go to hell.
Smoked.
We call that pre-firing, boys. If this video is beneficial for you guys, it helped you to optimize your 3080 for frame rate as well as quite stunning visuals even while screen recording. Liking the video helps it to get seen by more people, which helps me grow my channel, and I greatly, greatly appreciate that. Subscribe for more content like this. I do a lot of tutorials as well as cover a lot of news in the gaming community and industry. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.